sign them motherfuckers.
Welcome to the Knowledge is Free podcast. And I'm your host, Maurice Dobbins, aka Reese, aka Mo Value. Ask for Mo, get Mo Value, all of the above. It is I am him. And we're here today to talk about one of the more important words that you can find, that you can think of when it comes to life and anything that life that people deal with and go through, and it's called resilience. And I chose this word because it was a hot topic. Number one, because I've been kind of taking some polls on what people want to hear me talk about, stuff that I can relate to, and and how I can help the next person relate to it as well, and feel. Get that feeling that they need to push forward and catapult forth, just like I talked about in the intro. So resilience. And what I did was I looked up the definition to resilience. And there's two different ones. There's two different definitions to resilience. I like both of them. One of them sticks out a little bit more to me than the other, though. One of them is the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness, all right? That's more of the human form. That's more relatable to the person and things that we deal with on a daily basis, right? And then the other definition is the ability of a substance or an object to spring back into shape, elasticity. Okay, that is talking about more of a thing, or an object, as it says in the definition. I personally like that definition a little bit more than the first one. Although the first definition gives you relatability to things that we deal with. It says the capacity to withstand and recover, and resilience is just that, right? That's the definition of it, obviously. But when we think of resilience, we think of the things that we've been through, the things that we've dealt with over a lifespan, over a time frame, and we get to look back on it and be like, you know what, I made it through that. It wasn't so bad after all. And that's why the first definition is a little bit more relatable to a person, to the human. But me personally, I like the second definition, because even though it's talking about an object, I like the definition. I like the word choice in that definition of resilience. It's probably because of the way that my brain functions. I think a little bit different from the others. That's what makes me unique. That's what makes everybody unique, because everybody has their own thought process and how they think things should be, or how they are. But the ability of a substance or an object to spring back into shape, elasticity. Okay, so I'm personally going to focus more on that second definition, and I'm gonna kind of break that down for us here, and then we'll see if we can make it relatable to the next person. All right, so the ability of a substance or an object to spring back. Okay, so there's an original state. Okay, we all find ourselves in the original state, if you will, where we're normal, we're okay. We might not be happy, we might not be sad, but it's a normal day for us. Okay, everything is normal. Okay, but the moment that we deal with something, the moment that we encounter a problem, is the moment where we may end up being bent out of shape in some form or fashion, whether it's physically or if it's mentally, we get bent out of shape. Okay, so the definition of resilience is, in this particular case, is the ability to spring back into shape, and it uses a synonym there, and elasticity. Okay, a lot of us, we deal with different situations. Everybody has their way of coping with a problem, coping with an issue, whether if it's a relationship, whether if it's job, business, career, whatever it is, we all have our own ways of coping. And some things are a little bit tougher than the others, right? And for those of you that find themselves in these particular situations where you notice that it changes you in some form of fashion, and it not only changes you, but somehow, some way, it still sticks to you. Don't be discouraged, because it doesn't make you, or it doesn't mean that you're not resilient. Okay. Sometimes resilience can mean that whatever the issue or this consistent problem that keeps surfacing or resurfacing in your life, resilience is, in my opinion, no matter what either one of these definitions says, is that even if it does form you into a different person, that the resilience in all of that is it created a new product in yourself. It created a new you. A lot of us have gone through something to where you feel like you're not the same anymore. And there's a negative way to look at that, and there's a positive way, just like anything else in life, right? But if it turned you into a different person, okay, I still see that as resilience, because what it didn't do was break you. You still had the ability to transform yourself into a different state. So just like that definition says, all right, I want to go back to it. The ability of a substance or an object to spring back into shape. So that can mean you can go back to its regular form. You can go back into your regular form, to that regular person that you were, or to spring into shape, to spring back into some form of shape. So it may not be the same shape that you were in prior, but you had the ability to spring back into shape. Okay. This is why I wanted to focus on this second definition, and the second one only, because it kind of solidifies change. Change is inevitable. I say this a lot at work, because I find myself fighting with my employees and getting them to learn a process, getting them to learn a new process. These companies are putting out new products, and they have different features and options. So therefore, there's change. There's a little bit of a change in your presentation. And I'm speaking car business, guys. For those of you who don't know, I'm in the car business. But there's a level of change that comes with a new product. You have to change your pitch. You have to change your approach. You have to change how you explain these certain features and options in this vehicle. Okay, change is inevitable. Okay, so whenever you reach this point to where you're dealing with something in life, or you find yourself again in these situations where certain things keep resurfacing, and you look back on these things and you realize, oh wow, I'm not the same person. I don't love the same anymore. I'm not the same friend anymore. I don't treat relationships the same anymore. It doesn't mean that you weren't resilient. It just means that the resilience behind it is you were able to form back into shape, whether it's the same shape that you were prior to this particular issue, or whether it's a different shape that made you into a different person that knows how to move forward, that knows how to counter these particular issues, that's ahead of you and going forward. So guys, don't ever feel like that a situation, a relationship, a friendship, a job, a career, don't ever feel like that it changed you for the negative, because resilience isn't necessarily getting through something and remaining the same. Resilience is getting through something and adapting to it. That way, if this same situation resurfaces, you know how to get through it, get by it, and get back to doing the things that you do that makes you who you are, and the great person that you are. I can speak on resilience in myself personally because there's a few people that know that I've dealt with a lot in just my work environment. I spent 13 years in one place, in one dealership. And in that dealership, I found myself working up the ranks, and I started off as a salesperson that came from the basketball world. All I knew was basketball, and I was challenged to do something different. And what I did was I fell into the car business. I started off as a salesperson, and I worked my way up this ladder and got myself all the way up into the management position, which for those of you who know anything about the car business, it's not an easy thing to do, especially in the time frame that I did. In a year and a half, I went from a salesperson to a finance manager, and a finance manager to a sales manager, and I kept working my way up the ladder. And I spent 13 years in one place, and then all of a sudden, my world came crashing down and crumbling down because I was ready for change. I was resilient through all of the things that I dealt with in this particular workplace. I worked my way through the ranks. I dealt with every situation. I dealt with the ins and outs of it all, and I found myself hitting the ceiling. And in all of that, I decided to step out on faith and believe in my ability and believe in, what I know I can bring to the table and to any organization. I stepped out, and it got hard for me. It got really, really tough. I battled a lot of different things in this journey, but in the end, what that did was it opened up a door for me. Maybe not in the time frame that I desired to be, but within that next year, I ended up finally getting my own store, with a little help from the outside, of course. But that's the way it's supposed to be. But I ended up getting my own store and running my own store, and then here I am. I look back at the resilience of it all, which was in that year, I found myself doing travel sales. I was all the way in Texas and Kentucky and all these different places working and, just grinding and fighting. And then, boom, an opportunity comes up and I get a chance to go out and run my own store and put my own DNA in it and shoot my own commercials. And it became fun to me again. And so I look back on that and said that, yes, that was a level of resilience. And what happened with me was I came out of that not the same person anymore. I was not the same person. In fact, I came out better. I came out more knowledgeable. I had so many different notches on my belt buckle at this particular point. And so I didn't let the trials and tribulations affect me. I let those moments help define me and who I am and what I've become. And I'm here today to tell you that you too can do the exact same thing. Again, regardless if it's in the workforce, if it's in your relationship, your friendships, your business, careers, like all of the above. It doesn't matter what the situation is. All that matters is that moment, that issue, that problem didn't defeat you. And if it doesn't defeat you, that means that you are resilient in it all. And just because you didn't come out the same person, just because you don't feel like the same person anymore, you don't feel like that relationship that you were in, you don't feel the same anymore. You tell yourself, I don't love the same anymore. That's okay. That's because you learned something and you become resilient. You were resilient through it all, and that transformed you into another state, another shape. Okay, you was this shape before, now you're this shape, and that shape right here now is a more solid. You have a more solid foundation under you now because you understand things a little bit more. That's resilience. And I'm here to tell you today that anybody can be just as resilient as any of these particular situations that I shed light on. So until the next time I see you, peace, love, and we'll see you again. Knowledge is free.
homicide in them motherfuckers.